find it amazing, having been to a few of the funerals here. When you hear someone's life and the story of what they've done, you're like, oh my god, I'm like, I haven't done as much as them.
Yeah.
And it's not that it's a comparison thing, but you just go, God, people are fascinating, aren't
They
they?
really are, and that's one of the, I suppose, the worst things about, if there's a worst thing about a funeral, is you learn these things about people. You think, "Oh, I wish I'd known that when they were still alive." Yeah, the lives that they've had, because you meet somebody as they are, and you never really think that they've had a past. You just know them as they are, and especially those of an older generation that went through the war, the things they saw, and the jobs they had, and just to get by, they did this and they did this, or they were a dancer, or they were a musician, or they were like, oh my gosh, they never said. It's just fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
It's mind blowing, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is the biggest regret that people tend to have after funerals, or like, is there something that
Generally, it's, I wish I'd spent more time with my family. I tried to do the job, and didn't get in to see my parents. Um, it's, yeah, I mean, we're not programmed still to bury our children, so doing a younger person's funeral is hard for the family if it's a generation below. It's hard enough if it's somebody that's older. But I've done babies' funerals, stillborn, young 2, 3 year olds. I suppose for me, the hardest ones have been children, or as they were children, at our boys' age. Do you think actually that could be? No, don't think about that. Don't think about that. Deep breath. Or somebody that's my age. There was somebody I did a couple of years ago, who was a day older than me, and I thought, sure,
too close?
a little bit, and he suddenly just dropped dead. He just had a heart attack and just dropped dead. And like, okay, life is about living. And I think that's another thing. I do so many funerals, and then knowing it's going to come to us all. I remember somebody saying once, well, if I die, I said, no, you're going to die. It's not an if, it's a
Mm.
when. And it's a sobering thought, but I think if people embrace their mortality a lot more, come and talk to me about your funeral. Tell me about your hymns. How do what do you want? Because families don't know, that they don't know what, and it's good to talk about it, because again, you get to a certain point in life and you realize actually there's more behind than there is in front. And I think that's where people's spirituality kicks in again. They think, oh, what's next? Is there something next? And I want people to be able to talk about that as well. Bring your fears and concerns to me, and we'll just thrash it through.
I love that. What is the checklist for a funeral? What are we what are we having to think about?
Well, they generally have there's generally a running order. If you want some hymns, but readings. Did you have a favourite author that people didn't necessarily know about? Favourite film people didn't necessarily know about? That
Oh.
we can weave in. It's not just about morning has broken. The Lord is my shepherd. There's more to it than that. People think because it's church, it has to be boring, and it's
Mm.
not. And I'm hoping that I'm bringing non-boring into the services and into everything I'm doing. I did a funeral once, and the final song was Highway to Hell. If
That's
that's, you know
hilarious.
what? If that's made you happy and that's what they wanted, that's absolutely fine. Stairway to Heaven, Highway to Hell. I've had Bat Out of Hell, and everything in
A lot of
between.
hells.
Well, exactly, a lot of hells, and everything in between. But it's not my day. What we're doing when I take a funeral is we're capturing their essence.
Mhm.
So when they talk about eulogies and tributes, don't think it has to be a was born, lived, went to school, which is fine. But most people here will have known that. So give me an ism. What was
Mm.
saying they had? What was they always couldn't, they couldn't pronounce something. And that's where the stories tend to come out. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people's stories in their lives, not just their CV.
Mhm. Makes sense. I'm a little bit worried because my dad's a bit of an entertainer, as you may know, and like obviously you do think about it as a son. You think, oh Jesus, what am I going to do for my dad's funeral? Like it's got to be good, right? And then you start to think, and then you get a bit too creative, and you're like, can I like stick animatronics in him and see if no, he's not going to get up and suddenly start walking around or start playing the guitar. But you do start thinking about these things. Is there a budget? Do people like spend a lot of money on funerals these
Funerals are
days?
really expensive.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the biggest expense of a funeral?
I don't know actually. I mean, a
Just
crematorium,
generally,
yeah,
yeah.
they're probably £8,000-9,000.
Oh my God, don't die, Dad. I can't
Yeah.
afford it. That's crazy.
But,
Wow.
coffins are expensive, everything's exp I'm the cheap bit.
You're the cheap
Um,
bit.
but
Life insurance, though. People have life insurance for a reason, right?
Yep.
So at least someone's paying for
Well,
it.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. No, and it's a bit like when if you're buying flowers, so you go buy a bunch of flowers and it's, I don't know, 30 quid. If they're wedding flowers, oh, that's 60 quid. If they're funeral flowers, oh, that's going to cost you 100.
What? How rude. That's crazy, isn't
You know
it?
those letters that people have? I
Yeah.
don't know what they are here. I don't know if they have them here, but they were like 90 quid each letter on the mainland. I'm
Wow.
not sure why I'm whispering because they can't hear me. But you think, for crying out loud,
Yeah.
there's making a profit and there's taking the mick
Yeah, no,
and taking
absolutely.
advantage of a grieving family.
Oh
So I'm never
God.
going to get Samantha.
No, 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 absolutely not. So too many letters. Way
Exactly.
too many letters.
Exactly.
So what is the strangest thing you've seen at a funeral? Because I mean that's quite interesting, really.
Oh, we've had fights. Oh, yes, there was a feuding one, and I had to stand up and say, "Excuse me," I did swear. I said, "This is not about you. You sit there, and I will not have this behaviour in my church." Oh, I had to put my standing up voice on. I was bloody
Ooh.
livid.
What were they arguing about? That's so
The
selfish.
son had it was a drugs thing, and
Yeah.
they were all blaming each other, and there was kind of his and hers and stuff. But it was like, no, I don't. Not now. It doesn't
Yeah.
happen here.
Yeah.
Go and do it outside.